The Spiral Abyss for version 5.3 is out, and this one has a pleasant surprise. The Ley Line disorder is back for floor 12. Now, I don't know if this is an anomaly or if this is here to stay, but this is the first time we've had a disorder for floor 12 since version 2.4, which was on January 5th, 2022. So 3 years. Now they might have added this because they've been skyrocketing the HP for the enemies on floor 12 for the past like 3 or 4 abysses. And it's surely been more difficult since mid last year. Or some think, myself included, that this is just a parameter that they're pushing in order to incentivize you pulling the new characters Mavuika and Sitlali. The disorders are heavily catered towards them, because if they wanted to make it more universally friendly, they would just lower the HP, instead of buffing the characters that are actively on the banner. Now, is that to say you cannot clear the abyss if you don't have these characters? Absolutely not. So here's some tips on how to do so with the characters that you have. All right, so let's break this down. Like I said, we have a ley line disorder for floor 12, which will be relevant for individually the first half and the second half. The first half, your pyro damage dealt by all party members' normal attacks increases by 75%. So the first half of each of these chambers, it's incentivized to use pyro characters that normal attack. In the second half, all party members' Night Soul line damage increases by 75%. Natlan characters. Now we also have the Blessing of the Abyssal Moon. When you trigger a pyro-related reaction, a shockwave is unleashed that deals true damage to opponents. It's not very powerful, so don't worry about it. You're going to use pyro characters anyway for this. Alright, so keep these in mind as we're talking about characters you want to use. But let's break down the enemies. Chamber 1, the first half. These are backwards. There's 2 waves. The first wave is 3 of these tiny little cute Yumkasaurs, which everyone always feels bad beating up. And after you beat those, there's the one gluttonous Yumkasaur Mountain King, the big meatball, basically a Yoshi meatball. Now the Yumkasaurs are easy. The Mountain King is who you're going to want to focus on most. He has a ton of HP, he does some powerful attacks, and he has a 70% resistance to Dendro. So basically, don't use Dendro. Now when you're fighting him, try to dodge the attacks as best you can. If you have a healer or a shielder, most of his attacks aren't going to one-shot you. You can move around them. There is one of his normal attacks that'll do more damage than most, and that's when he basically lizard tongues the ceiling, dangles in the air for a second, and then tries to pounce on you. That could one-shot you. Another move you might want to look out for is the weird dreidel attack, where he's going to pat his belly a couple times and then he's going to start spinning at you, and you could still hit him while he's doing this, but if you're close enough, he is going to knock you back. So it's easiest to just either attack from a distance or just wait till he's done. Now at some point, he's going to spit out these 3 molten devil fruits, and I guess wait for them to ripen before he tries to suck them back up and eat them, so he can blast you with a huge lava beam. That will definitely kill you if you get hit. But what you can do is just attack them with pyro. If you hit all 3, they'll explode and he'll be paralyzed for a little bit. So he won't move for a while and you could just go crazy and attack him. And that's where you'll end up doing most of your damage. Now the second side is going to be the same pattern. It's still going to be 2 waves, 3 of these Ictomasauruses, which again you'll feel bad about killing. And it's going to end off with 1 of these wayward hermetic spirit seekers, basically a bad bitch with a paintbrush. Now she's going to have 70% cryo resistance, and all of her attacks are going to be pretty powerful, but there's one in particular that you should look out for, where she's going to paint these marks on the ground, and after a second they're going to explode, and if you're in them, they're going to do a lot of damage. So try to watch out for those. Now at a certain point, she's going to create 4 ice copies of herself, like these little ghosts. Your job is basically to just destroy the ghosts. They all have cryo elemental shields, so you're going to want to hit them with either pyro attacks, which are the best, or electro, which is second best. And once you destroy all 4 of the shields, the real one will pop back up, she'll be paralyzed, and you can do a bunch of damage. While paralyzed, she has negative 30% resistance to all elements, so she's going to be pretty weak. that's your opportunity to basically end the second half right there. Okay, now in Chamber 2, the first half is backwards again. You're gonna have 3 of these Wanwan beasts, which are really no big deal. They're just kind of there to waste time. You're not gonna feel as bad about beating up these because they're not as cute. But after you do, you're gonna move on to the solitary Swanee, who's a big old dog. Big lion, kind of like a lion mermaid thing. Pretty cool, honestly. But it's 70% hydro and 70% anemo resistant, so don't use those elements. Now, the way to beat this guy is pretty frequently throughout the fight, it's going to throw out these 2 moves. The first move is it's going to apply hydro to itself and to you if you're close enough, and then it's going to charge up this big Blastoise Hydro Pump Cannon attack from the ground. Now, if you let it go too long, it'll end up doing it, and if you're close enough, it'll just explode and it'll do a lot of damage. So the way around it is to freeze it. And once you do, you'll have to break it with either shatter, melt, superconduct, swirl, or crystallize, and it'll fall down, you'll paralyze it, and you could do all your damage there. Sooner or later, it'll get back up and it'll continue to fight, and there's a chance it'll do that second move where it kind of summons these 3 big old balls, and they are a Nemo. It's basically preparing to turn the balls into tornadoes. If you let it charge up long enough, that's exactly what'll happen. But the way to break that is to pop the balls with either Pyro, Electro, Cryo, or Hydro. Now it's Hydro resistant, so you're probably not going to use that. So really it's only Pyro, Electro, or Cryo. Once you do, they'll explode, it'll be paralyzed again, and you can do all your damage there. So once you're done with that, the second half, you're going to be fighting these 2 Tenebris Mimesis? Yeah, and they're interesting because they have a special form of attacking. Now they might hit you and it'll do a certain amount of damage, but when they do hit you, it also applies something called attrition, which will deal extra damage a second later. So be careful, because if it hits you and you have a little life left, you think you're safe, but that attrition is going to come in afterwards and it might kill you. Their shield is also very different. It isn't an elemental shield, which means it's not necessarily weak to any particular element, but it is vulnerable to all elements. It's made up of a certain amount of points, and elemental attacks deal 1 point of damage per hit, but it's particularly weak to Night Soul attacks. So anyone from that land who can attack it quickly while in a Night Soul state will do 3 points of damage with those attacks. So incentivized for Natlan characters. And once you deplete it, it'll revert back to its little mimic state, little orb ball, and you can do a ton of damage there. Now, if you happen to not be able to defeat it in that time, it will regenerate the shield and start doing its attacks again, but a replenished shield is only half as strong as the original, so it's not going to be too difficult afterwards. All right, once you're done with Chamber 2, Chamber 3 starts in the first half with Biting Cold Wayab Manifestation. These guys are a little annoying because usually when you're fighting towards the end of the chamber, if you know you're going to beat it in time and you still have another chamber left, a strategy is to build up a little energy on your characters before you beat them so you can start with more energy in the next chamber. There's good and bad news for this, because in Chamber 2, normally that's what you would do with the first half here. Once you're beating the solitary Swanee, you would funnel a little energy into your characters, so at the beginning of Chamber 3, the first half, those characters will have more energy. Now, the first attack that the Biting Cold Wayab Manifestation does is drain all of your energy. So the bad news is you don't have any energy. But the good news is, if you're struggling on the first half of Chamber 2, you don't have to worry about that tech, because it's just going to deplete it anyway. Now, alternatively, if you're a little more hardcore, you could just rush straight in as soon as you click Start Battle. Rush right in, do as many ults as you can, and then when it sucks your energy away, you attack as usual. And if you end up beating that first shield before it converts to cryo, it will restore all of your character's energy. Now, this is how I recommend doing it, but that's a little more of a quicker, advanced play style that you might not be interested in. And you can clear without doing that, for sure. The last chamber is the simplest of the three. But that's essentially what it's going to do first. It's going to deplete all your energy when you enter its little ring, and it's going to have this new type of shield where, just like the Tenebris little balls, the shield isn't necessarily weak to any element, but this one is simpler in the sense that it's not any weaker to Night Soul attacks either. Sooner or later, it'll convert that shield to a cryo shield, which is like a general cryo shield, where Pyro depletes it quickest and Electro second quickest. And it's kind of the same thing with every shield enemy, where once you deplete it, it'll be paralyzed and you can do all your damage there. And once you beat that, you're going to move on to the Construction Specialist mech, Numa, the Fontaine enemy. And this guy's pretty annoying. It's the mech that moves around the most. It's going to rush into you to attack, but it has two moves in particular that are really annoying. It has the spin move, where it's going to spin 8 times, and you could still attack it while it's spinning, but there's a chance you're going to be hit back if you don't have a shield or if you're not really technical at dodging. And the move where it charges up above its own head and tries to pizza cutter you down on the ground and charges towards you. Now, if it misses you and you successfully dodge, normally that's a good thing, but in this case, it's just going to keep going and it's going to leave you. So it's going to waste some time. So it doesn't do that much damage. My recommendation is to just let yourself get hit, so it stops there and you can continue to hit it without wasting time. Now, another thing you can do is interrupt it. Since it's aligned with Numa, you can attack it with an Usia attack, and that'll kind of stop it in its tracks for a little bit. So you'll need a Fontaine character like Lynette, Navia, Risley, Chevreuse, Farina can do it, Clorind, or Sejwin, and they all have Usia aligned damage attacks. But in my opinion, these guys aren't tanky enough to really warrant needing any of these characters unless you were gonna use them anyway. Obviously, Farina is one of the most popular Abyss characters to use, so you might even have her on the side to begin with. But if you weren't originally gonna use Lynette, don't use Lynette. Okay, and finally, once you beat those, the final half is the Tenebris Papilla Type 3. Now, everything I mentioned about the shield and the attrition attack is going to be the same as I was talking about in Chamber 2. But this guy is tankier. The first thing it's going to do is it's going to plant itself in the ground like a Venus flytrap and start sucking up nutrients. So again, elemental attacks are going to be good, but Night Soul attacks are going to be better. So if you have Natlin characters, try to attack it with Night Soul. If you don't, then try to attack it with as many elemental attacks as you can. It'll paralyze it, you could attack it from there, do all the damage you can. Now you're going to need really strong characters in order to one-cycle it once it's down, so chances are you won't and it'll get back up. But it's pretty simple from there, just try to dodge the attacks, and if it ends up planting itself again, just rinse and repeat. So there's a few characters that are a little better at applying an element to destroy the shield if you don't happen to have Night Soul available. The best characters are really the ones who can attack with an element and very quickly. So Fischl, Clorind, Arlecchino, Alhaitham, Child even. You might be able to get away with it with most Catalyst characters if they happen to attack frequently. But I'm pretty sure the best is Fischl's Oz attacking with your active character, or Clorind's skill with her normal attacks. Alright, so we talked about how to beat all these guys. Now let's talk about which characters you can use. Alright, so keep in mind these disorders. Fire damage dealt by normal attacks increased by 75%. That yells Arlecchino. Okay, she's going to be the best driver for the first half if you have her. So the team that I was able to clear best with was surprisingly Arlecchino, Rosaria, Mona, and Shalonen. Arlecchino gets the damage buff. Rosaria freezes the solitary Swanee on the second chamber. Mona gives a little bit of an elemental buff. Shalonen is Shalonen. This is good on the first half because you need Pyro to pop those little cherries for the big meatball fella, and that's taken care of by Arlecchino. Arlecchino also takes care of that Wayob, the Cryo Wayob at the end. So this is all around a pretty good team. If you don't really care about freezing the Swanee, you can do like a Mono Pyro, like this, then a Shangling core. If you want some resistance, you could throw Dia in there. Honestly, you could even do Pyro Traveler if you have them built. A Chevreuse team wouldn't be too bad. With Fischl, assuming that you have Night Soul characters for the other side, because she would be useful for those Tenebrous creatures. Beto would not be useful because these are largely single target waves. If you have a really well-built Diluc, you might be able to do it. Gaming as the driver would be great. Basically try to focus on Pyro, Electro, and Cryo if you want to freeze the Swanee Beast. Yeah, basically make sure that you have Pyro in here somewhere and use either a Pyro or an Electro driver. On the second half, Pyro would also be beneficial because in the first chamber, you have that Cryo Spirit Seeker and you want to break those shields, but you can also take care of that with Electro. If they're really well built, you'll waste a little time. So pretty much the same Pyro drivers I mentioned for the first half. A Bennett Shangling core would be good here. You're going to want to choose Natling characters. So I highly recommend Kinich. That was my best clear time because his skill, while you're circling around them, you're normal attacking pretty frequently. So you're knocking the shield off for the Pupusas pretty quickly. So I did Kinich, Nahida, Shangling, Bennett. That's a fantastic team. If you have Mavuika, that's going to be the best. You can use a Geo driver if you want, Ito or Navia with a Bennett Shangling, maybe something like this. I wouldn't recommend Xingqiu, at least for the first chamber, because he applies Hydro to himself, so you'll get frozen. Even a Yanfei Fischl core wouldn't be too bad if you didn't have any Natlan characters. Honestly, it's kind of the same recommendation from the first half for priority Pyro and Electro, but a priority above for Night Soul. So this one you might have a problem creating just one team each and beating all three in a row because you want similar team compositions here. If you could split them up evenly, I'd focus on like a Melt team for the first half and then an Overload team for the second if you don't have Night Soul. Or even if you do like a Auroron Overload. You could even throw Kachina in there just to take care of the shields and give the team a buff and then choose 3 other really good characters. Alright, I'm going to leave you off with a showcase, show you the teams that I used, and hopefully you learn a thing or two. Compared to some of the other previous Abysses, this one isn't too crazy, but regardless, good luck. Hope you get all your primos, and comment your teams if you beat it. Ciao. Let's go!
By destiny. Punishment.
Well, that was quicker.
Everlasting. The moon. Overruled. An engraved name's echo. You can't run.
Yeah, Rosaria needs energy bad. Not gonna be
written in the star. Judgment. Lights out. Laid bare. Let the mountains
no, don't spin. Don't spin.
Shadows of fate. You can't run.
God, no. 2 spin?
Witness my rise. Delved into death. Yeah. Overruled.
Oh my god, put me out of my misery. Put me out of my misery. I'm gonna have to be really lucky with this motherfucker.
Eat this! Booba, get them! Hey, make yourself
one more. Oh, God.
Let's light it up. I'm going in. You're toast. Nice and spicy. Sharing my knowledge. Oh, you're toast.
200's not enough.
Teamwork is tripped out. Let's light it up. Bow before your king.
13.
Glory to its none.
Come on. Oh! It is enough.
Measly insects. Now you must pay.
Yo, a house kind of weird, but it's so cool when you have just one.
Judgment.
Oh my god, group a little.
Witness my rise. Laid bare.
Kill it.
Overruled. Bring it. Let the mountain's veins boil. Fate is upon you. Judgment. Shiver.
Maybe this will. Come on. Yeah. Yeah.
Let me scry. This is where laid bare. Punishment written in the stars.
All right, that was better.
Nice and sweet. Let's light it up. The Temple of Wisdom. I'm going in. Eat this.
All right, this is it.
I got him cornered. For the Lord of the Night.
Attack and blaze.
Locked up.
Whoa.
Teamwork is teamwork.
Yeah.
Sharing my knowledge.
Target acquired.
There we go. Okay, so the moral of the story is big skill issue. Okay, wait the 5 seconds. It's not that hard. Just wait the 5 seconds. There you go. Bang, bang. One,
Let engraved names echo. Fate is upon you.
3.
Punishment.
Do it. There we go. This is the run.
Bring it.
This is it.
Let me scry.
I feel it. Maybe not.
Everlasting as the moon. Delve into death. You can't run. Lights out.
Yes. Let's do it. Let's just do it, dude.
Let's light it up.
it? Yeah. Okay. Right.
Adventure, everybody, stand back.
Uh-huh.
Why do they never
Oh.
miss? Nice and spicy. This way for you.
Locked up.
Here we go. Here we go. There it is. God damn.